Hello and welcome to the More Cheese, Less Whiskers.com podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today we're talking with Thomas Arrigo. And Thomas has what I think is one of the best book titles for a lead generator. It's a book called The Six Figure Woodworker. Now, the great news is that was a title that we came up with together on a book title brainstorming call that we did for our 90-minute books. And today we talk about the whole process of using a book like that as the beginning of a relationship. We talked about how to, start with who his audience is, people who are aspiring to become full-time woodworkers, or people who, want to make more money with their woodworking. It certainly speaks to the right person. You just need to say those words and they're crystal clear on what it's about, and how to now engage with those people, how to build a community, and how to lead into an academy type of situation where he's able to help people go through the process of setting up their six-figure woodworking business. And then we kind of hatched the scheme of going on and aspiring to being the millionaire woodworker. And so there's a lot of legs with this. And we had a really great conversation. We covered all the bases of the before unit here, including the role of a podcast and getting the context right. So lots to dig into. I think you're going to enjoy this episode. Here we go.
Wow. This call's being recorded, Thomas. How are
Nice.
you?
How you doing, Dean?
I'm fantastic. How do I say your last name?
Arrigo.
Thomas Arrigo. Okay.
That's correct.
Well,
I know I was going to do the Dean Jackson, but then I was like, he's probably going to screw up my name and it'll sound funny.
that's well, there you go. So, welcome. Whenever I don't know, I always like to ask. So,
nice.
I'm excited. I've got my evil scheme hatching pad here, and I'm fully prepared to hatch.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. So tell me what's going on.
Well, first off, I'm super grateful to even be able to talk to you. This is great. Let's see. So we talked one other time of when you were doing the 90-minute book title.
The title, yeah. Okay, I now remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we came up with Six Figure Woodworker.
Mm-hmm. Love that. That's a good one.
So I guess a little of my background is I've done woodworking mostly all my life. I've had a couple of my own businesses and worked at other places, and I've always been able to outproduce the people that sell. And then I guess as I got exposed to more and more businesses, I realized there's no magical business that works awesome, that everybody's always having problems and stuff. So I figured, I was, the illusion was broken at every
I keep
place.
waiting.
Oh,
I think
really?
I'm 80 episodes in or something, and I still haven't found a business without problems. So I continue to search.
So I figured, I'm running machines mindlessly sometimes, I would just start learning everything. And that was back in the when Tim Ferriss's book first came out and everything. So it was I just consumed as much podcasts and marketing information as possible.
Okay.
And then I always ran into the blue collar, white collar thing where nobody wants to hear your aspects on stuff. They just want you to go run the machines and whatnot.
Oh,
and so it was always that's a great idea, but maybe we'll figure that out later. And then about 3 years ago, I was shop foreman of a timber frame home company, and I ended up getting carbon monoxide poisoning a bunch of times and being paralyzed for a while. So at that point, I was I got all this great information in my head. I just need to frame it in a better way so that people will actually instead of me just telling them stuff, they'll pay me to listen to it and implement it. So that's where that was in the Frank Kern high-end consulting days. So I consumed a lot of that. And man, I really loved doing collaborative close calls with people because it got them excited and brightened up their day as far as just oh wow, there's all these possibilities I had no idea about.
Opportunities, right?
Yeah, because I find that most woodworkers, they build the skill and everything, and then they fall into business. So it's not like they started out to keep everything business minded. It's just like, oh, somebody wants to pay me. Now what do? I got to try and make this work for itself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to be a conduit to woodworking business owners of, relevant information for business and direct sales marketing and all that, and just a way to organize their business better. And that's where I came up with the perfect woodworking business formula. And so that was what it's kind of your 8 profit activators, and then a framework of making sure that the product is like buildable and sellable instead of just being I'm a woodworker and I make whatever. So that's where I got most of the information for the book, but I'm realizing that I really need to work on the back end and the deliverable. And I've really been, for a while, it was struggling with I would always go straight to, what is it? And then how, instead of how you started doing the who, not how. So I was like, I just need to, and I always like the way that you explain stuff of, you never explain how to do it necessarily, just what it is and how it works, not the in-depthness. And I realized I would always try to go into the how and get mired down in the weeds. So that's been a pretty good thing lately. And then I also like your moo scenario there, because like I said,
the method, talk.
Yeah, because the collaborative close calls were always the best thing, but it was just getting, the next step past that and how I can help the people, but more in a way of how I'm going to like doing it all the time so that it happens. Because my Colby is a 5-4-4-7. So I like a lot of stuff and I change my mind a lot and seem to cycle through things and always come back. So that's where
you're right in the middle. You mean you're like a project manager.
That's where I love coming up with I love coming up with the plan to make it work, but I don't like managing it on a daily basis. But it's like I have enough knowledge of so many random things, and whenever I talk to somebody, it's like, oh yeah, here's this thing from over here that works totally in your thing.
I got it.
So that's where I really want to shine a spotlight on being able to put myself in that kind of a situation to help people. And so I figured that would be a good thing to work out with you. And I realized listening to your market maker stuff for the real estate people that in woodworking businesses in the beginning, I was like, well, who's actually like making money that want to make more money? And I was like, well, maybe people that are teaching classes. And originally I wanted to, back a bunch of years ago, just put videos of making woodworking stuff and be in the, it's up now, it's just overloaded with YouTube where it's like unbearable to watch the stuff. So I wanted to kind of make a Netflix of woodworking with a how it's made kind of deal of like solid information. Yeah. But do it in a market maker way of, here's a list of places where you can take classes physically, and then here's some online stuff, and then connect people that are teaching classes with those people that want, a class guide every month or something. So that, and those two ideas, they seem to always be like separate in my mind. And I'm like, they're servicing the same people. It's just, I don't know. That's right.
It could be when you start to think about like, who's your target audience? If we start to think about, what you're able to do for people. Like whenever I start thinking about something like this, I always start with, what is it that you actually have that you can exchange with somebody that's going to create a transformation for them, a transformation from, and that could be anything, in terms of that you're putting out there, that it's about making money. Because when you name something Six Figure Woodworker, the implied promise of that is that you have a way to show somebody how to make 6 figures as a woodworker. So is that true? First off, do you have that formula?
Yes, because most of the time people follow a range that are just, I have some stuff up on my website, and it's a terrible experience to even try to buy something. So it's mostly an exposure to that, and then the vending machine idea of like, listen, instead of just waiting for organic traffic to buy a tool that you make that's $200 or $300, we can run some ads and do conversions, and you only need to sell a few hundred of those a year.
I love it. Okay. So when you look at this then, who would be the ideal candidate for you? I mean, who's the right person?
So in my mind, it's like two different people. So there's people that make like woodworking hand tools because they're all like small batch tool makers, we'll call it. And those people are becoming pretty successful because hand tool woodworking is coming around pretty good. And like I said, then, so those are tool makers. And then there's also people that feel the need to produce content, and they either have a physical place to teach, or they're like trying on YouTube and stuff. So that's where I wanted to try and bring in like modern, like, hey, you can make a membership site and you can make like a digital product, and instead of just jamming really long videos on YouTube. And that's where I realized, like, oh, well, at least people that have an actual school or someone, because there's a lot of like small shops where people teach how to make a chair for 5 days, and they charge a few $1,000s. Go to their place, like a group of 5 or something. And so those people, that's where I was like, oh, well, the market maker thing would work pretty well in addition, because then I would build a list of people that want to learn and build classes, and then I can connect them with the businesses of like, well, here, we already have a list of people that want to take classes, and these are the classes they're interested in.
So I'm a little unclear about the tool makers, how they fit into. So, because it seems like that's a different business.
Well, it's everybody, as they start, they want to, people basically like collect tools to make ideas. So like most of the time people don't get very far in the building the project phase. They get into buying nice tools and then puttering around to build the skills.
Okay.
And so people spend a lot of money acquiring, like I said, like a wooden hand plane is like between $100 and $300, and usually you have like 10 or 12 of them, or many more. So people spend a lot of money. They're irrationally passionate about collecting tools and then using them.
Yes, right.
And so that's where there's a lot of people that started making them, and they're actually like fell into it of like, oh, well, now I'm like a plane maker because this is interesting to me, and I have like a back order and people really want to buy them.
I got you. Okay, so I look at that. I would look at that as something, supplemental to the promise. The audience of being a six-figure woodworking business. So when I look at this, that the person, what it kind of implies to me, if I look at that six-figure woodworker, it seems like it's the person who maybe has the tools, has the workshop, and is a woodworker, or would aspire to make the leap to, because maybe they're the person who's doing woodworking on the weekends and then after their regular job, but then they would like to make the leap to being a full-time in their own business.
Yeah, that's where, like I said, they're like, it's like two separate ideas, but I feel they're kind of connected. But that originally with the book,
that feels like the core right there. Like if I look at it, that one seems simple with the promise, right? And that on that journey, they're going to need and want to be exposed to different tools and different opportunities there. So I would kind of keep that, in a way that your core thing would be in gathering the community of people who want to be six-figure woodworkers.
Yep.
Because that's the core of everything. Like I think it's an interesting with not that you're a really long fact finder, but the fact finder is the longest of your Colby things, right? 5, 4, 4. Oh no, 7 is your hands on, right? Actually, I've never met anybody who's a 7 implementer.
Yeah, that's what everybody I talk to. They're
but
like,
it makes
that
total
is a really
sense.
unique one, and
but it makes total sense that you're a woodworker. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world because it's hands-on implementing stuff. That makes a lot of sense. But your fact finding, I think the temptation is to try and see what all could encompass around this. Like you're going beyond, starting with the full vision of what it all could be, like the market making and all of that stuff, without the core foundation of it. And I think that it seems like the core foundation of it is people who are aspiring to make money as a woodworker. And there's something nice about Six Figure Woodworker is that is a nice aspirational number for most woodworkers. And it's attractive even if they don't necessarily feel like they need to make six figures. If they're thinking, well, if I just made $50,000 a year, I'd be happy.
It's not like, you're going to be a millionaire. It's like, this is a doable number that you can replace your own salary, and that's off the 1,000 through fan basis of, it only takes a bunch of small numbers to add up over time. Right. And that's where that's the kind of thing
where there's a lot of those. There's a lot of those people, I would imagine, and that's pretty. That's pretty good to get to. But if you look at it now, if we take that one core thing, that one core avatar of our aspiring woodworker, what is it that you would be able to do with them right now that would help them become a six-figure woodworker or a full-time self-employed, self-business woodworker?
Yeah, that's where I got to, because I was outlining all that for the book, and then I was like, man, I don't really have anything the not what to teach, but like how to teach it in a good way. I was like, so if I go ahead with the book, I'll have no back end, But what I can do, that's where I was like,
so you got it. So we're like, that's a great title. And you're like, yes, people would love that. And then we're like, okay, do you know how to do it? Well, no.
No, I mean, I have all of that. It's just how to convey it, because I try to go too deep into the how right away.
That's it.
But that's where I give them a framework of like not just, because a lot of people will just take any job, or they'll start justifying like, I need to buy a tool for this job and that, and I go through explaining that they're actually a manufacturer and the medium that they manufacture in is wood, and then you need to think of it as a product that can be shippable, that you've made ahead of time, that you have a known price and a known shipping cost. Therefore, you can have your numbers down so that you can make a proper sales funnel and collect people's information, because in that realm, they're still very far behind in the direct marketing, where they're barely even collecting emails and stuff and just making a rudimentary website with like a PayPal link to buy something. So there's a lot of room for improvement and fixing it. It's just, I want to be like, well, you need to run some Facebook ads and this and that. And that's where it really got with me. I was like, man, Dean really explains it in a way that doesn't require you to get into what a Facebook pixel is and this and that, and just the vending machine idea. And that's where with the collaborative closes, everything was great. People would be like, oh, this is great. I have so much stuff to implement. This is going to be awesome, And at that time, I was still trying to go for like straight consulting, and they'd be like, I don't understand how it would still help, but that's where I've been doing a bunch of stuff with Ed Dale, and he made like his Niche Style Academy, where it's just, instead of me having to lay out information all the time, it's like, just ask me questions of what you need this week. And then let's use the Scrum method to make sure that you're getting stuff done when you have shop time, and not just standing in the shop going, what am I going to do next? And getting overwhelmed.
I think this is perfect in that, that kind of thing where if you took somebody through a an academy type of situation where the outcome is that it's, 90 days and you go through this process, and at the other end of the process, you've got you've got an outcome of you've chosen your core product, you've got your methodology for building it, story, you've got everything connecting the dots there. That's a pretty that would be a win for people, right?
Yeah, and that's where I was. You were talking about your email mastery in a couple podcast episodes ago, and how you're saying that you start a new class every month, and then it's a call, just a conference call for people. And I was like, that's really, like I said, I want to be more in the move space instead of the sitting in front of the computer trying to make PowerPoint space of like, what and
But when you look at, the email mastery is built around a core curriculum that there are 8 core modules that are already created in there, right? So people can go through those on at their pace, or jump into whatever one is the most relevant for them. But the live calls that I do are just that. They are wordsmithing and working with people individually, but it's all supported by the the core curriculum there. So if you were to think about it, what would be it's very similar to what you're kind of telling people to do. You're part of the thing is to have a process or a curriculum or a roadmap or a step-by-step way for people to go from just doing odd job woodworking or taking what comes, or doing random things, to building on a foundation of having a core product.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to lay out in the book, because I pretty much I modeled your 8 profit activator scorecard, but in woodworking terms. Perfect. And then I'm making another scorecard of just the formula, I would call it, where it's like the same method, but then in production and then all that. And even the scorecard, I just did a few tests of just from my Instagram feed, and you could tell how it really resonated with people, because they saw the future and they saw where they were on the scale, and people were just like,
exactly right.
Because Ed had
they get a sense of where they are. They know where they are.
Yeah. And that's where Ed has you do the Winter Haven method, and so I would write back, and people would respond like gangbusters, because they were like, this is great. And that's where I was like, all right, I need to really hammer down what to give them. And that's where I figured the book could lay out the roadmap, and then it would just be an implementation of all those ideas if it really resonates with them,
Yeah, I love it. Okay. And so because the book is really going to get you in front of the right people. That's a no-brainer. You put the book in front of somebody who's aspiring to do it. That's going to be, you're going to get the right people. So I have no doubt about that. Now,
and then is it to just keep the book a how, not or a what, instead of how to do it, just the what level of information?
That's exactly it. That's why that's why we do the 90-minute book, is that the thing about the book, and about the 8 profit activators now. So the book is 100% solely a profit activator 2 tool. The only job of work, as Ed would say, of the book is to get an invisible prospect to raise their hand and become a visible prospect. So because you can't get a list of people who are aspiring to be full-time woodworkers, right? They're mostly holed up in their garage in the evenings and on the weekends, and people telling them, you should sell these things. You should do this as a business. You're really good at this, and they love it, and they can't imagine that people get, paid or that it's a business like that, right? So it's an escape, and they do it, and they're they like it, but then it comes, I would really love it if I could make a business out of this. So just the fact that the six-figure woodworker is even possible is a great attractor, just like the 4-hour work week was the same thing. You're like, wow, I want that. And if you're
that's what I loved. It wasn't,
yeah,
I'd only want to work 4 hours. It was like, oh, here, this lays out a whole picture in my mind of how to make this happen without it being crazy overwhelming.
That's exactly it. If this guy can get it down to 4 hours, surely I could get it down to 20 or 30. That would be, and there's the thing. I think that when you're laying out a promise like that, or a aspiration, a destination, six-figure woodworker, they're like, wow, if I could just replace my job income, that would be fantastic. So you get that person in, right there. So the only you don't have to do everything in the book, right? The whole thing about the book is to conceptually introduce that concept, the idea of what it would take to be a six-figure woodworker. And as if the way that we look at it is that once somebody asks for the book has 80% done its job. That's the whole thing. The title, the fact that you have a book, and you've got a way for them to get it, that's all you need to trigger that mechanism, right? Because for somebody to ask for a book, it doesn't matter, and they don't care whether the book is 50 pages or 250 pages.
Yeah, and I think I just kept trying to go too deep with it, of just giving away, not having too much information, but just trying to keep it like as a cohesive thing rather than just painting the broad strokes.
Yeah, you just need to introduce the premise. You need to describe what the destination is. You need to show examples of, how it looks like, how people are doing it, kind of thing. And then it's always a lead-in to your next steps, right? Which is where if you've got this academy to show people over 90 days how to go through and build their six-figure woodworking business, or the foundation for it. That's a really good. That would be a really good start.
Yeah, and that's where I was wondering, like, if I should do some case studies or something like that.
Do you have case studies? Do you have any case studies? Have you already helped people do this?
Just in introducing the concepts or giving some information, but never following through in a long time. I did it with myself when I started to get a little better. I started manufacturing like clothespins with a stainless steel spring that a guy in Vermont was making, and he would sell the springs, and they were like $2 each. And I set up a whole sales funnel for that, and like the free book style. So I give 2 clothespins free with shipping, and it was like half the people that got them bought them, and it worked out pretty good. I couldn't even make them fast enough. But it was all to show, like, look, I just run a Facebook ad for $10 a day, and people are buying clothespins like gangbusters, and that's just a clothespin for $2. Like, as long as you that's where I started coming up with the method of like, oh, as long as it's shippable and it's a product and something that I can like work against, instead of just being like, I'm a woodworker, I make all sorts of stuff. What do you need?
There are so many things. Like, I think if you were to show just the possibilities, right? Like just to inspire people by what other people are doing, because they may not even know that something like that's possible. Like if you start with something like those, like little those little things like the clothespins, or things like I know there are people that make axes, real wood axes, that are really high end. They're beautifully crafted and painted, and in combination with somebody who makes the axe blades, and it's a very high end thing. I've seen other people who make desks that are handcrafted wooden desks that are really masterpieces, that sell for upwards of $30,000-$40,000 for
and a lot of those places are just like small places that figured
exactly
that thing
right.
out, but they're just like kind of just doing it and getting mired down in the doing all the time.
Mm-hmm. I got it. And that depends on what, whether somebody wants to be a craftsman or whether they want to be a manufacturer kind of thing, because there's different things. And I think if you led people through a process of kind of self-discovery of finding the right fit woodworking business model, because some people, you look at, I would imagine that the clothespins would be a high volume, low kind of satisfaction. And
that's what happened to me. I ended up buying like a CNC machine and everything, and I was like, I'm making a large profit, but it's getting really boring and miring me down here.
Tedious, right? Yeah. So that you're constantly, but for some people, that are that are 7, 8, 9 follow-throughs as opposed to implementers, that may be the perfect thing for them. They just want to know what to do and do it to the best of their ability, But then the other people where, if somebody's and it's funny how you may be in a situation where as part of the academy, you may walk people through a process of finding the right woodworking business for them based on their Colby too, right? Like in a lot of ways, where
because
some people, if they're
it's a very
high
encompassing word,
if they're high quick starts, they may want to, they may like the idea of doing original works, right, and constantly doing those things. If they're high fact finder follow-throughs, they may enjoy creating
that's like a restoration person, or
it could be, right?
People who make period furniture and they spend forever taking photographs and analyzing the size of the period piece and then reproducing it, and it takes like 2 years, but they sell for like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, exactly. So I think there's so much interest in that. I mean, so many interesting different ways to slice that, and I think that's, when I look at this, what I'm looking for is you've got a crystal clear target audience in the people who are aspiring to, be woodworkers, like employed, survive, make money with their woodworking, and Six Figures is a good aspiration because that's somebody who's taken it seriously, even if they don't ultimately plan on getting to that level. But even if they do and go beyond, it's like that opens up for the millionaire woodworker, And right. No, but that's the kind of thing is that, you may find people who go through that, that's where they ultimately want to end up. You may find somebody who starts out in your six-figure woodworker and then really falls in love with this whole idea and falls in love with the marketing of it and the whole thing and goes on to become a millionaire woodworker,
Yeah, there's a lot of potential in it.
You want to register that domain name too if that's available.
Oh, I already did.
Millionaire Woodworker, you got it? Okay.
Oh,
good.
no, not yet. I will do that right now.
Yeah.
Because that was another thing was I figured I could also do like podcast interviews of either like More Cheese, Less Whisker, collaborative clothes style, or just an interview of tell us about your business, just so that other people can have a better framework in their mind of like, well, this guy did it, and he just sells a couple hand planes that are $400, and and he makes them. He works on it on the weekends, and he's doing this, and just to keep building upon it.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's what you want. So when you look at that now, that's part of the thing is your Profit Activator 2 is the book. The Six Figure Woodworker. That's it says all the right things, gets people to raise their hand and say, I want that. And, I always say to people, imagine if your landing page, imagine if somebody, the moment they press, yes, send me the book, that they're magically transported to your workshop and they poke their head in and they say, hey, I'm here about the Six Figure Woodworker. And that, what would you say then? Now we're in Profit Activator 3, right?
Yeah, that's where usually I ask if they already sell something, if they already have a product, or what they're thinking of selling.
Right.
Because then they kind of, usually the people reply with whatever they're making or whatever. And it's like you said, there'll be a lot of people that just write a whole bunch of stuff, and it's like, this is awesome,
Yeah. And that's cool. And then your offers then is, what are the ways that you could help somebody? Do you have a sense of what you could, like all that work and all that thought that you were kind of putting into the book is what I would put into the academy. That's where I was breaking the who and the or the how, and I do the how and what instead of the who. And so that was where like I introduced the idea of using like the Scrum method for time management. That way you get more done in the amount of time that you're in the shop, and then working through the actual having a marketing plan, and then your work environment so it's cohesive. And I laid it out in the scorecard method, so it's like, and it takes a long time to get started and hard to get in the work, the flow state of work, and then it's everything's organized, I can get right into flow and start manufacturing. And then scalability, to explain the whole concept of scalability that way, because people will work themselves up to the ceiling of scalability and then just freak out because they're like, I can't make any more of this, and I've already like dedicated a lot of space and tools to this. Yeah. So do you have a list of aspiring woodworkers right now?
Yes, that I've built, because most of them, they've just started showing up on Instagram like in the last 2 years. So that's really, it's a really good medium for woodworkers. So it started, so I was on there as a pretty early adopter. And so I have it like on my personal account, like 2,500 people that are pretty much woodworkers. And then I just reposted small tool makers tools as they started accounts. And that was Best Woodworking Tools. And that account has like 12,000 people. Because anytime somebody would open they'd open their account, I would reshare it with a lot of people, and they would get a lot of followers right off. So I'm in contact with a lot of them. Like there's a guy that makes a wooden bench, and the wooden bench costs $3,000 to $5,000 each, and he makes enough where that's all he does now. And then he's like, and I realize I can teach people. If I have a class, then I have 3 people come to my shop, and they make their own bench for $3,000.
Right.
And I just help them. And I was like, yeah. And then also you should like sell the plan so that people can at least have the plan. And then you can make some online content of how to put more fixtures onto your bench and this and that. and he was all excited about it. And it's just having the framework to talk with the people, to build up inertia for them to be able to follow through, instead of just putting out the next fire as the next day comes up and losing all that momentum.
Yeah. And I think there's a good, that would be a great podcast episode, right? Like sharing those kind of stories of people who are, all the different ways people are doing woodworking. That would be
that's where I have enough of a list of that to have like a year's worth of podcast episodes. That's where I was like, oh, this is, and I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I've always gotten mired down in the not just talking on the phone system of, oh, I got to be able to record it and then this and that,
Oh yeah, no. So that's, that's the whole thing. That's why you need to just talk. That's the way.
Yeah.
That's why we launched our Dial Talk Done. To help people do the podcasts. Do just the way I do them, because this one.
Yeah, exactly.
I just dial in. Yeah. And we're already recording, so there's no editing required. And as soon as I hang up, that'll automatically go to my team that puts everything together, puts it up on iTunes, gets it transcribed, and then all those emails I send are coming from.
That's what resonated with me too, because I ruminate over I should make some kind of an article or an email in order to tell people this idea that's going through my head before it disappears. And it's I'm like, I'm not catching.
But if you've got an outlet
as they're coming
through,
podcast,
you've got an outlet like your podcast there. You've got the total opportunity. Man, you've got all the makings of a really great syndication. I mean, it's
nice.
So I think that the first step would be, do you have email communications with these people? So what kind of how often would they hear from you? How often do you email?
Not that often, because it's the same thing. It's the content on my end. It goes through my head, and I'm like, I have a Trello board just filled with ideas that I'm I should at least write this down. But then it's the coming back around to it and all that. That's where I got to the point where I was like, well, I got the book, but I need a good way, that a framework that works with the way I work. That way I can follow through on giving the information in a timely manner in order to make it really happen. And that's where I resonated with the Moo method. I'm like, well, when I'm engaged in a conversation, it works fine. But when I'm sitting there, I can't write an article or something. It's just a mental block,
Yeah, that's it. So it's really, so much of it is about setting up these contexts that allow you to create the content, That's really, and so a podcast is that. A podcast is a context that allows me to have these conversations, within a framework of we're talking about the 8 profit activators, and the catalyst is your business here. But everything we're saying is being recorded, and we've got that now as an asset to draw from, to be able to create all the articles that are right, because you don't need to write anything if you have said it,
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think, boy, it's just now you just need to put in some pathway for people to participate,
Yeah,
so
that's what my thing was. I was like, I have all this information. I just need to create an interaction with people that
how many are on that? How many are on that list right now that you could email?
Probably 40 or something. That was just from doing the scorecard on my Instagram. But it was enough of a response where I was like, oh, well, paid advertising will bring enough people in, but I really need to work on my profit activator 5 so that I can have a good number 4 to make an irresistible offer. And that's where I'm like really struggling with the framework of, you know, how am I going to deliver this content in a way that is easy for them, but is also easy for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, part of the thing, you know, is to, you know, start working with some people and walk them through the process and record it all as you go, you know, like even if you were just doing it as a, you know, a super small group mentoring program, and it's not about maximizing your money on this. It's about creating the assets that you've got now that other people are going to benefit from, you know? So if you start having, if you were even out of 40, if you were to say, you know, if you were to send an email to them mentioning that you're starting a Six-Figure Woodworker Academy next month, or a pilot program for it, and you're looking for, you know, this kind of specific person, and what would be the characteristics or the parameter of what would have to be true of somebody that would make them a good candidate for you to help them?
I guess it's just the being open to. Yeah, they want to aspire for it, or at least be open to the idea that it's a possibility that's achievable, and that they could apply it in what they do. Because, like I said, a lot of people, they just get mired into the making of their stuff, and then the business part is like a side aspect of it, or a problem almost, rather than. That's where I wanted to try and frame it as, well, here's the things that'll come up, and here's the things that you should think about that'll help you in the future, rather than having to put out fires all the time. Yeah. But I guess I'd have to explain more of the actual the concept, like you're saying, just so that it's a better picture in their mind, so that they know what to try to achieve.
Yeah. And there's the thing, it's like, you know, when they're you know, when you look at it, that the part of the real benefit is that they will, they'll have are you saying this for everybody, that they'll have at least a product-based income stream? That's part of it, right? Rather than just doing commissions or doing
because what it is a lot of people, they want to do commission work, and then they get stuck in, because that's like 50s era cabinetry of, all right, well, I got to work with the designer, read plans, make an estimate, and do a lot of work ahead of time, and then hope that I get paid later after I make it and customer changes and stuff. And that's where everybody, because there's really no information on how to run or set up woodworking businesses, or even do pricing that are in the recent future, or that are any recent at all. So that's where there's a real void in it. So people just mimic what they see, and it just becomes this mimicking of this terrible ways of like losing money, having people, you know, go, oh, I can just buy that at Raymore and Flanagan for the same price, instead of really working there using 80/20 to go, listen, there's people that'll want you to make custom furniture for their whole house, and you could just do that if you just find the one right person, instead of dealing with all these price people on the low end of the scale, you know?
Wow, that's great. Yeah, it just seems like, wow, there's such a, there's probably a pretty, how big is the community, do you think, of people who are woodworkers?
It's fairly large. I mean, like, So I just use kind of like Instagram numbers. Most of the people who are like tool makers and woodworkers, they have 10 to 15,000 followers. And then like there's a guy that does trim carpentry for houses, and he's really good. And that account has over 150,000 subscribers. So I mean, it's not like there's 20 people in it. There's a lot of people in it, and I also liked it because it's a physical thing. The world is becoming very digital dementia style. So I also wanted to introduce, woodworking as a flow state builder. That way you become more tactical and stuff. And that's why a lot's going back to hand tools and whatnot. So more and more people are entering the space, and there's a very big void of information that's recent.
That's it. You can't digitize a rocking horse, right?
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. I'm like, well, they can use a CNC machine to cut the pieces, but nobody can. They don't have a robot that assembles it perfectly and can read grain and all that other stuff. Right. So there's always going to be the need for that.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm seeing the whole blueprint of it, falling into place here, and I think that if you just, I think that certainly getting the word out about your book, you probably could pull in some of the favors with your tool makers. All the Instagram ones that you spread the word for them when they started their account, that they may be willing to post up your book.
Yeah. And then also to just, like I said, that's where I was thinking like, if I interviewed them, then at least that would expose them, and then it would, and then, because like I said, with the collaborative close, it was more of a prescribing idea, and that's where like the best information would come out, and that's where I was like, I can't really just out of cold thought come up with all this stuff. It has to be more of a like a conversation in order to build, I guess, the content. Yeah,
and it'll be a really good thing for you to model is what I'm doing with Listing Agent Lifestyle.
I just started listening to that. That's good stuff.
Okay. But so there's the model in that book. Those are the right words for the right people. Those are the right words for real estate agents. And the book itself is a 90-minute book, and it's just outlines the 8 elements of the listing agent lifestyle. So when you think about what are the elements or the things of being a six-figure woodworker, what are the things that they have to, have in place, kind of thing, that those elements now become the context, the framework for all of the episodes of the Listing Agent Lifestyle podcast that I do. It's the container for all of this, all of the stuff. So when you're talking about the, what would be involved in being a six-figure woodworker, that's what we're looking for. And that model.
Yeah, so it would just be along the lines of, what kind of product do you make? What is the scalability of it? And nice.
Yeah, and so you're sharing with people how the things that keep people down is you've got to, you can't just do commissions or do, you think about leverage, and you're thinking about products, and you're thinking about scaling and, building some support and that kind of thing,
Excellent.
And I think that kind of, gets it all rolling, and that becomes your flagship, your Profit Activator 3 flagship. That's your long-term follow-up. You're building this community of people who want to be six-figure woodworkers, and you have their attention now because you're giving them valuable, inspirational content from people who are doing it and people who are supporting people in doing it, tool makers, or, so they're learning all the way along, being inspired. And that becomes then a carrier for everything that you want to do, where you're able to then invite them to your Six Figure Woodworker Academy.
Nice. Yeah, and then eventually that's where I liked how you do the blueprint, or I went to one with Ed in Portland where it was just 3 days of going through, he was doing Scrum at the time, but it was like Scrum for doing your publications.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I was like, this is perfect. Like if I could just meet with a couple woodworkers and then everybody could at least meet each other, because that was the other thing, was overcoming the isolation of being a solopreneur in a shop and not having a network of people to even go, oh, this guy charged they want me to do this for so little, like don't work with those kinds of people.
Right. Where do you live?
I live in Buffalo, New York.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you're so right. Like all of that stuff is so modelable, it's certainly easy for I see all of the pieces of it. And so you just need to start gathering really that audience,
Yeah, and that's where I was at like a dead end point of like I know I can get people and I can help people, but I need to not do it in a jittery way that won't be helpful or something. Like I was like, I really need to concentrate on the deliverable, because everything else seems to be there.
Every time you're creating, you don't need to think about creating your academy or your course as creating it for hundreds of people or thousands of people. Mm-hmm. You need to create it with the thought process of helping one person. Maybe that's
very true.
The one thing that you need is to do your N of one study right now, and you may find that person within your 40. If you just send a message to them and you say, I'm putting together a new pilot program, and I'm looking to work with someone on building a six-figure woodworking business.
Nice. I guess that's what I kept trying to make it a scalable thing in itself.
So you got to start out.
You got to have one person.
Right. You got to have the core first. That's the thing. You got to start start small, so that that you're building it in real time for somebody real. And as you're going, you're documenting everything that you're doing along the way.
That makes a lot of sense. Nice.
Yeah. Very cool. So what's your action steps here? What do you think
Well, I think I'm going to first off, get the millionairewoodworker.com and then
right.
Work.
Gotta think ahead. Dig your well before
totally,
as they say.
And then I think I'll contact the people that were interested in the scorecard previously and work on making some small case study.
Yeah, especially the ones that they found it helpful, or you can see that they have the aspiration of where they want to be. And then you even maybe could just email them and say, hey, would you like to work with me on creating a six-figure woodworking business? That might be the simplest way to get going. Now
just 9-word email that to people.
Right. That's exactly it. Now you've got somebody who is, who is interested in this, and it's so much easier for you to create something when you're creating it for a real person. And there's that whole accountability of it. There's the, it's easier to stay motivated as you're creating something, rather than just kind of, holing up in your cabin in the woods trying to come up with the curriculum kind of thing before you present it to the world, right?
Yeah, because it was always like this ethereal thing of like, this is not, I can't get any farther because it's not, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even from that scorecard, the response of a few people, like they really got it, and then they were like, "Well, what can I do like to make this go farther?" Like one guy was a third generation wood carver, and he was like, "Yeah, business is super slow, but I don't want to leave the family business of it. Like I can tell that there's room for improvement based on the scorecard, you know."
Yeah. Well, there's the one. I mean, that's the thing. Start with that.
Nice.
Yeah. You just got to get started because it's not going away. I mean, woodworking has been around since the beginning of time, right?
Yep.
I mean,
yeah, and
it's a solid
there's
thing.
So many more generations coming in.
Yes. And it's something that people really appreciate, you know, and there's something about it. So I think you got something really solid there.
Sweet, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you talking with me. It really solidified a lot of things because that's where I was like, I have it all there. I just need a clearer way to visualize it in my head so that I can make it a follow through rather than just something that I just keep getting stuck up in. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason, and that's part of the thing, is you just need to build your track record of documented results, right? Like the reason the listing agent lifestyle, works is I've got a 30-year track record, right? I know how to build a listing agent lifestyle for people. And we've got, all the case studies and tools and systems that are already proven, So that's the stage. But it started out, I started out as trying to figure it out for my business,
Yeah, and that's the same way. Like I said, I would always figure it out because I'd always have to lay people off because they couldn't sell enough and stuff. So, and if I have the situation to apply the knowledge to, it just comes out. But when it's like, all right, list 5 things that can do something, it's like, in what context,
Yes, exactly. Cool.
Sweet.
Well, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun.
I did as well.
You got something really, really great here.
Sweet. I appreciate it so much, Dean. I'm so grateful.
Thanks, Thomas. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. You have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And there we have it. Another great episode. And it was really great because we really got to cover all the bases. We talked about everything from, Profit Activator 1, selecting the target market, and Profit Activator 2, getting them to raise their hand, and Profit Activator 3, using a podcast or a flagship as a way to stay in constant communication with them, all leading to something where you're able to help people achieve a transformational result. All of that is modelable for your business. And it was really cool to hear Thomas talk about the great interactions that he was having with people because of his scorecard. And there really is nothing like a scorecard to help people get a great sense of where they are and also give you a sense of how you can help them. So all very exciting stuff. I can't wait to see what happens, how this all unfolds. A couple of resources for you if you want to start implementing some of the things that we talked about in here. Of course, we have our 90-minute book team standing by, ready to help you write a lead generating book for your business. And you can go to 90minutebook.com, download a copy of the 90-minute book, which is a perfect example of a 90-minute book. It's I created it using the exact same team and process that I have standing by for you. We talked about scorecards, and great way for you to get a sense of how the scorecards work is to check out our Profit Activator scorecard at profitactivatorscore.com. It's a simple online process you can go through. It takes you through the 8 profit activators, and you'll be able to see immediately where you stand, where the opportunities are, and what might be slowing you down. Sometimes even just having an awareness of what the highest level of each of the elements that would fit for your business gives people a sense of place, a sense of where they are. So I think you will learn. It'll be an instructive process for you at profitactivatorscore.com. And then, of course, as always, if you'd like to continue the conversation here, you can go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com. You can download a copy of the More Cheese, Less Whiskers book. And if you'd like, if you click on the Be a Guest link, you can be a guest on the show and we can hatch some evil schemes for your business. So that's it for this week. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next time.